Hey parents, I am creating this video to hopefully help you as you support your children at home learning to read. One of the things we hear as educators most often is that parents want to help their children read at home and they want to support what their teacher is already doing in the classroom, but they're not really sure the best way to do that. Hopefully in this video, I'll be able to share some things that are quick and effective for you to do at home as you're working with your children. Before I get started, I do want to share that as teachers, we go through many trainings on a regular basis. And one thing we hear most common is that reading with your child at a young age is one of the best predictors of a successful reader. That means that even when your child is 1 or 2 or 3 years old, you can already start helping them in the process of reading. In a recent training that we did, one of our statistics showed that a child's language and oral development at the age of 3 can predict how they do in the 3rd grade. So if you have those little babies at home, please be reading with them on a regular basis. Even if you have children who are already in elementary school, read with them as often as you are able to. And then surprisingly enough, your middle schoolers and high schools would probably enjoy sitting down with you 1 or 2 nights a week and reading a book. A colleague of mine shared that when one of her girls was in high school, she sat down and read Frankenstein with them. And it was something that they remember and she remembers, and it was just a great experience. So if I can't encourage anything else, I do encourage, please read with your children no matter what the age. Okay, so looking into what is taught at school and how you can help your children at home. Obviously, there's a strong focus on phonics in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade in all counties, but especially in Walton County. And we use a program called Phonics First. Using this program, your students learn a lot of helpful strategies for decoding, which means sounding out words. And we want you to be able to use those at home as well when you're reading with your children, when they come to a word they don't know, or just in general as they read and write on a regular basis. So one of the most common things you'll see with this program that is implemented in Walton County is sound tapping. So when a student comes to a word, for example, the word hot, and they do not know how to read that. Say they are a beginning kindergartner and they are just learning how to read. So when they come to that word, they would stop and they would sound it out, but they would use a strategy called finger tapping or sound tapping to sound out that word. This strategy helps students isolate individual sounds within a word. So if I were sounding out the word hot, I could do it a couple of different ways. One would be t, hot, or t, hot. Looking at a larger word that you may see in 1st or 2nd grade may be the word pain. There we have a vowel team. So the sounds in that word would be ain, pain, or ain, pain. Teaching your students to do this and encouraging that at home when they're reading is very helpful as they come to words that they do not know. This is going to really help them be able to get much closer to the way you actually pronounce the word rather than just saying that or seeing the first letter and saying a random word that begins with that letter. A lot of times we see students look at the first sound or the first letter and the last sound or the last letter, and then everything in between is just not correct. So if they are using the strategy of tapping out the sounds in a word, it's going to get them much closer, and more times than not, they're going to be able to identify the unknown word. So that's something we use a lot. I hope that it's helpful for you to use at home. Another thing you may see students doing is pulling words and then arm tapping them on their arm. We do this a lot for spelling, not as much as sounding out. We normally sound tap out words, but when we're spelling words, especially like our sight words or our high frequency words, you'll see the student pull the word and then spell it on their arm. This would look something like this. There. T-H-E-R-E, there. This is something that you could easily have your children do at home as they are practicing their high frequency or sight words. You may also see these called red words. As I mentioned that's another topic too that I hope is helpful for me to explain. The difference in phonics and spelling patterns or phonics patterns, words with those, compared to high frequency or sight words. So high frequency, sight words, red words, those are all, that's all lingo that's used, which basically means the same thing in what we typically see in education. These are words that students see a lot in text. Sometimes these words are just that, they're high frequency words that we see them, like the word to. We see that in books all day, every day. And then some of these high frequency or sight words are words that cannot be sounded out following regular patterns, like the one I just did, there. When I were to sound that out, the magic E on the end of there doesn't make any sense. It doesn't follow the normal phonics rule, so I just have to learn the spelling. A strategy or an activity I liked to give my parents as a first grade teacher was to take your students' words for the week. Usually you get those on a newsletter or they're sent home by the teacher each week. You may have 3 sight words, red words, high frequency words, all of those are the same. You may have 3 of those for a week, you may have 5. Take the ones that your child is working on in class, put them on sticky notes, just write the words. So pretend like the words were there, his, and like. I would write those 3 words on sticky notes, and I would find a common place that my child visits every single day, and I would put those sticky notes there. Some good examples of this would be on the bathroom mirror, on the back of the headrest in a car, or on a cereal box. So you place those there, and then every time you go to that location, whether it's every morning when the child gets cereal, every time the child uses the bathroom, or every time your child gets in the car, before they can continue the activity, before you brush your teeth, you're going to read and spell your sight words. Before you take off to leave from your house, when we get in the car, you're going to read your words on the back of the headrest. Before you make your bowl of cereal, let's look at your sight words for this week. Let's spell them, and it takes 1 or 2 minutes. Hopefully that is something easy that you can incorporate throughout your day as you are helping your child learn to read. The final thing that I was going to talk about is some of the big things that are covered in each grade level, kindergarten, first, and second. A lot of times parents are like, I don't know what a digraph is. I don't know what they mean by the word blend. These are things that educators use, and they're familiar with this lingo, but not so much to parents. So as kindergarten parents, hopefully you are aware that your child is basically learning the alphabet and all of the sounds that the letters of the alphabet make. However, also in kindergarten, your child will be introduced to digraphs. Digraphs is a fancy word for 2 letters that are stuck together and make the same sound. Examples of these would be the letters SH saying sh, TH saying th, or th. That one sounded a little messy. SH, CH, ch. These are all examples of digraphs. WH, okay? So you'll also be hearing your children learning those in kindergarten. In first grade, those teachers continue to place an emphasis on digraphs. This is often a often a difficult skill for your children because they're used to learning the alphabet where each letter makes 1 sound. Now we're putting 2 letters together, but they only make 1 sound, and that is difficult. So digraphs are something really, really important, but also somewhat difficult. So if you can help your children with those, that would be great. Also in first grade, we have something called blends. Again, this is where you take 2 letters and they're side by side in a word. However, with a blend, these 2 letters still make their own sound. So it's 2 letters making 2 sounds, but when they're read quickly together. An example of this would be BL. B still says B, and L still says L, but when you put them together, it's bull, bull, okay? That's sometimes hard for children as well to know the difference between a digraph and a blend. They do not understand that sometimes I can take 2 letters and put them together and they make 1 sound. Sometimes I take 2 letters, put them together, and they make 2 sounds, okay? At the end of first grade or in the second semester, you'll also see students learning magic E. Of course, this is where when I put a magic E at the end of a word, it changes the vowel sound within the word. So like the word cake, the magic E on the end of cake changes the A from A to A. This is something that students learn and hit hard in first grade. So if you can help remind them about that magic E on the end of a word, that's really going to be helpful. As they get into the end of first grade and into second grade, They're going to start learning vowel teams. You have probably heard the little phrase, when two vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. So that would be like putting the letters A and I together in a word. A-I together says A. When two vowels, A and I, walk together, the first one talks, which would be A in AI. As a teacher, I normally set it as when two vowels go walking, the first one usually does the talking, because not in all cases, but in most cases it does. That's a little helpful rule that you might remind your children of when they see two vowels together in a word. There are a lot of other skills that students build upon as they get into second grade, and then continue to build on phonics in third, fourth, and fifth grade with word parts and morphemes, suffixes, prefixes. I know those are all big fancy words in education, but we just wanted to share some of the most important things that build a strong foundation for reading in kindergarten, first and second. And then I would just like to wrap up with saying another very, very difficult thing for children as they're learning to read is understanding that vowels make two sounds. So most of our consonants in the alphabet only make one, with the exception of like C can say K or S, G can say G or J. Our vowels are primarily the letters that we see making two different sounds. They have a short sound and a long sound. For example, A can say A as the short sound. A can say A as the long sound. If nothing else, we would love for you as a kindergarten and first grade parent to make sure that your child can identify the 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and then of course we know sometimes Y serves as a vowel. Being able to identify those vowels, and then also being able to recognize that when they see a vowel in a word, it may be a short sound or it may be a long sound. Identification of those two sounds within a word. I hope that this was helpful to you as a parent. Remember, we love anything you can do with your children at home, whether it's homework or whether it is just getting a book off the shelf and reading with them. We know that you do not have time. We know that your your students are involved in a lot of activities. Mine are as well. So even if it's only 3 pages of a book tonight or 2 pages of a book tomorrow night, take that 5 or 10 minutes and invest in reading at home, because your children will be glad you did. And as they grow into young adults, they will be glad that you took that time with them, not only for the memory, but also so that they are successful in school and in life. Thanks.